ILS be the set. Get in tune. Welcome, everybody. In living Spanglish, ILS. Back in the building. You already know what it is. Mexican Natsu, Ricardo Mexicano, Mr. Give Your Girl Back, all the aliases, all the above. You already know how I'm rocking. And surprisingly, it is just me this time around. If you're watching the video as of now, you can see that there is nobody else around me except the cats in their respective location. You got Frankie over here by the window, and we actually got a new cat that just got here last week, a little kitty, currently in my room, so you might hear it in the background. It's a little agitated, wants to get out, but trying to record, it'd be kind of hard to do that with the cat running around. So currently, it's she's stowed away, all right, but she's safe, and there's nothing to worry about. She's, like I said, she's just a little agitated. But Veronica's busy, not here, so definitely she'll be back next week. We'll be back in full effect when it comes to the co-hosting, the co-duties of being a podcaster and all that. But I'm gonna hold it down for this week for sure. So if you tune into the first episode, you would see that we kind of took a different approach to things when it comes to how we're gonna go about with like these little food items and the questions and topics and stuff like that. Being that it's just me, I'm gonna keep it a little bit old school, and I'm just gonna dedicate it to just the topics that I want to talk about. Get the freestyle a little bit more since it is just me. All right. And being that it is me, I got to kick it off with some hip hop. All right. One of the biggest talks recently that have happened is that of the new album by The Game called Drillmatic. If you're not familiar, Game's been hyping up this album for a while now. He finally dropped it last Friday. It's a beast. It's 30 tracks. A lot of features. The songs themselves are pretty long. I don't want to get into too heavy of what the album is in general. I talked a lot about that on my other podcast, Minority Agenda. By the way, if you want to go check that out, shout out my boy Isaiah, shout out Jacob. We got really crazy and in-depth in the album if you really want to learn more about the contents of the album. But what I want to talk about on here is more so the standouts of the album, which most people will probably say the Black Slim Shady. Now, if you don't know what it is, if you're not really in hip hop like that, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about as it relates to the song. But if you know music in any way, you're probably familiar with who Slim Shady is, aka Eminem. So in this song, The Game is essentially, in a way, dissing Eminem. And I say essentially because there is a lot of shots taken at him, but at the same time, there's a lot of, I guess, critiques, cheap shots, and this great sense of just attention seeking, clout chasing for people much younger nowadays. This is what this song comes off as. It's not terrible by any means. The song itself is actually pretty great. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think the song's really good. I think the flow is insane. I think the beat switch up by Hit Boy on the first part and then going into the second part is really, really dope stuff. But, and I put this on Twitter a couple days ago, my gripe with the song itself comes in the form of, is this some sort of like commentary, kind of like holding up the mirror to Eminem, showing him like, hey, Marshall, you do this to people all the time, so I can do it to you. And it's like this nice little sparring back and forth. Or is it, the other thing where this is the attention-seeking, clout-chasing Game that people have labeled him for quite a few years now. The Game has always been involved in some sort of controversy, some sort of beef throughout his career. But some people say that nowadays he's at a low point. Game, as it relates to a mainstream aspect, hasn't really been relevant for quite some time now. It's been a minute since people really went crazy for a Game album like that. Now, Game still puts out quality material, but with so much change in the musical landscape, most people aren't really checking for a Game album out the gate like that. You know, they're listening for the Lil Nas X, Young Boy, you know, Meg Thee Stallion, Lotto, you know, dudes from Jacksonville, Florida, Moneybagg Yo, all different type. You know, recipes, Jay the Youngin, Youngin Ace. You know, all that type of music, people will rush to before they rush for a Game. So, why does Game keep doing this? I personally think it's a mixture of both. I think Game knows that going at one of the biggest artists of all time is gonna stir something up, and this is not like it came out of nowhere. The Game has been kind of building this kind of like I'm better than Eminem narrative for quite some time. If you follow hip hop, you follow the podcast, Hip Hop Circuits, interviews, freestyle with a certain radio station, Game has been doing the rounds. And ever so often, he'll mention that, hey, he's better than Eminem. He's a better lyricist. Before, he didn't believe it in himself. You know, he would always big up Eminem, saying that he's one of the best ever. But now he's kind of done like a 180 to where he maybe doesn't look down at Eminem, but definitely consider himself like an equal and an Eminem's caliber. Ultimately, you're a rapper. You can feel any way you want. But it's tricky. It's tricky because I'm a Game fan. I am. I'll say it all day. I'm a Game fan. I love the Game. I love what he does. But at the same time, some of it just comes off really corny. You know, some of it comes off very, very, you know, clout chasing, for lack of a better words. You know, but the song itself is dope. It's 10 minutes long too, by the way. So the album itself is already long, crazy long, which I hate because I've never been a fan of long albums. I prefer like short, concise, 15 tracks, 12 tracks, 10. If you can get your point across in that amount of tracks, we're good to go. 30 tracks though, I feel like I'm going on a roller coaster of pain. I can't deal with it. So you got this long, quote unquote, diss song, which that's debatable, for 10 minutes, going after arguably one of the best rappers of all time, if not the best rapper of all time in many people's eyes. Not mine personally, but I do love M, and he's one of the first rappers I ever listened to growing up as a kid. So I don't know what to make of it. I'm kind of just sitting around right now, kind of waiting to see what pops up. The Game might start doing more interviews, kind of explaining his reasoning. But at the same time, we ultimately know that he wants a reaction from M. And I think everybody's kind of like on the edge of their seats to see if M will respond. Now, I have personally thought that the best way to go about this is if you're Eminem, how can you approach this? Because there are a lot of things he said on that song that's kind of hard to counter. You know, I'm not going to break it down, but there are things that go at certain, there's a lot of cheap shots, like I said before. You know, things that go at a race, things that on the surface aren't true in the slightest when it comes to Eminem as a person and his character, and claiming that he's trying to be something that he isn't, which for the most part, I don't think M does that. I don't think M has ever tried to be something within hip hop that he's not. You know, I don't think he really played into that whole, you know, he's a culture vulture. You know, I think Eminem has gotten his just dues, gotten his respect. People know how great of an artist he is and what he's done for hip hop. Of course, people have their gripes. You know, infamously, like Lord Jamar made his comments years ago that he's a guest in the house of hip hop. So you've had this conversation forever, but does it warrant a response from M to Game? in my opinion, I think the best thing that M could do is not respond at all. You know, because game lives for that response, so you can go back and forth. He loves it. You know, he feeds off of it. So the best thing he could do is just not respond. And if he does, it's gonna be kind of hard to kind of go at it. He's gonna have to, I think, ultimately attack it from a standpoint of you're an attention seeker, you clout chase, and I'm about to expose that side of you that is very apparent, but maybe some people just don't catch it right away. And I think that's how M is going to be able to really, I don't know, drive a stake in him if he really wants to go that route of like proving that he is one of the best to ever do and that he could come at him and respond to a 10-minute diss track. It's a lot. It's a lot. The game is not the game, but the album itself is great. Like I said, very long, 30 tracks, 29 actually, because some of the tracks were taken off streaming platforms due to at this moment unknown reasons. Not sure. In particular, the NBA YoungBoy track that he's featured on has been removed. So, you know, hopefully we'll find out what's going on with you know, sample clearances, record label, meddling, all sorts of things. But, you know, go check it out if you haven't. If you're a game fan. If not, you probably aren't missing much. But I don't know, if you want to check out the controversy and the little back and forth that's going on, definitely check out the Black Slim Shady and, maybe give your 2 cents on what you think of what's going on at hand. Nextly, all right, so, we're moving along, we're chugging along. That was topic 1. Topic 2. So when it comes to this music thing, when it comes to hip hop, a close associated cousin of hip hop, maybe even brother, is R&B. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a big R&B fan. Always have been. Let me sip this LaCroix. Big R&B fan. Now, I've probably been listening to R&B my whole life. Dang near. Like thinking about from when I was like maybe 6 or 7, hearing like Say My Name for the first time. It's some of my fondest memories, just hearing those sounds, hearing those melodies, hearing the arrangement of these songs was captivating at the time. It still captivates me to this day. I saw recently an article that talks about, is R&B dead? In the first time I ever seen it, this topic of discussion has come up many times in the past. Is R&B not what it used to be? Is it stale? Are there any good artists left? The article that I have in mind in particular is a discussion between Diddy and the famed producer Timbaland. Timbaland responsible for Aaliyah, of course, Genuine, tracks with Jay-Z, Kanye, you name it. Nelly Furtado, Timbaland is, if you don't know who Timbaland is, you live under a rock. You just don't listen to hip hop or R&B. And of course Diddy, I don't think I need to explain, Diddy and Bad Boy, and his legacy and his impact on the game and music and all that. But they were having a discussion, claiming, Diddy was the one claiming that R&B is dead, that there's no more great R&B out here. And he immediately, this is what I don't like, he immediately went to saying that those who are great have to use auto-tune, right? Which I know is an easy way for people to just automatically write somebody off. That because they use auto-tune, they're not a real singer. That because they're using this effect on their voice, they can't hold a note. That they can't make great songs. And I, for one, don't like it. I, for one, think that people try to hold these certain effects, these certain ways of producing music, and claim that the people using it use it as a crutch because they're not talented people. They're not talented artists at the end of the day. To me, like I said, it's very cheap. It's too easy. You say that about anybody. People said about T-Pain for years. That because he used autotune, his music was subpar. That he couldn't really sing. That without the autotune, he's nothing. It got so crazy that Jay-Z on Blueprint 3, made Death of Autotune. Kind of claiming that, hey, this is his response to the whole autotune wave. But fast 4 years later, and autotune hasn't gone anywhere. Some people could say that it blew up and got even more popular. And it then turned out that T-Pain could actually sing. It wasn't just the effect on his vocal. The man can hold a note. He has range. He can go there with his voice. On the other hand, though, you have Timbaland, who's actually defending the current state of R&B and saying that it's still very much alive and relevant. That you have great artists still out here. You have your Steve Lacy's, your Lucky Day, your Frank Oceans, your Miguel, your Weekends. Even though he's transitioned more into a poppier sound, but still, I would say R&B nonetheless, unless you want to keep it like that contemporary R&B sound. The Her, the Snow Algiras. But Mary J. Blige also commented something very similarly, that R&B now is very poppy in a sense. And people can say the same thing about hip hop. Not even say it. I mean, it's a fact. Whether we like it or not, hip hop is popular music, and a lot of the sounds used in popular music is very hip hop based. Same thing could be said about R&B. Then that R&B sound is universal in a way. It's transitioned so much from a 3LW in the early 2000s to K-pop. I said it today at work. K-pop, and I'm not the first one to say this, but K-pop is essentially just repackaged R&B song from the late 90s. And some people also say, like, boy bands as well. Take that boy band sound, that Max Martin sound from like 97 to 99, and you have the modern K-pop sound, which is, in turn, popular music. It's a discussion that I like to go back and forth with, because I think people just love discrediting people love discrediting what they don't understand, ultimately. That what is out here nowadays does not resonate with them, therefore is bad. Now, you can like what you like all day. If you want to listen to Switch, Frankie Beverly and Maze, Earth, Wind & Fire, that's what you consider soul, R&B, then so be it. You don't have to listen to things from the 80s. Maybe you just love stuff from the 70s. But on the other hand, you have people who just love stuff from the 80s, maybe they love Luther Vandross. Who else? Stacey Lattisaw. The list goes on and on when it comes to like just what people consider, I guess, true R&B. But why are we so quick to write off people who have made a huge contribution nowadays? When we dig at people like Jeremiah, and this is like a random name, we tend to think that, hey, Jeremiah is not a capable singer a lot of times. He doesn't make good songs. Especially that verses with Omarion and Ray J. Jeremiah was there, and I think he was having some technical difficulties with his mic or the sound guy or something that happened that night, and he wasn't sounding the best. Things happen, but we know Jeremiah's had hits. We know he's a successful songwriter that has written for many, many people. He's been a feature on many, many songs. So definitely talented. I think R&B is in a space where it can be more than just this mood, in that back and forth between Timbaland and Diddy, Diddy was saying that, you know, R&B is all about a feeling and a mood, which I think it very much is, but I think it can be more than that. It doesn't have to just restrict itself to just love music. You know, he was talking about R&B the way he knew it and the way he produced it when it came to the Bad Boy records in the 90s. That, you know, it should make you feel a certain way. You know, it should arouse a man and a woman in a certain way. Which, yeah, there's a time and place for that. But R&B could serve a much greater purpose. You know, it's rhythm and blues at the end of the day. You know, it doesn't always have to be this sexy baby making music. You know, it could be so much more about the complexities of love, intimacy. You know, of course, heartbreak is a big commodity when it comes to R&B music. So I very much don't think R&B is dead. You know, it's gone through so many phases in its lifespan. It's still relatively new. When you think of that new R&B sounds, we're thinking about something that came about in like what, 88, 89? You know, R&B is what, 30 something years old. You know, still very young. It still has a lot of time to grow. So, you know, I think, you know, just people need to just ease off, man. I know people are very they hang on to what they love, and it's so easy to just write off anything else. You know, you love your Aaliyahs, you know, which I do too. Sade's, I love it all. Your Jodeci's, Jagged Edges, Drew Hills. You know, I'm just naming off groups now, but you know, SWV, Brian McKnight. There's these legendary acts and artists that stick with us. But there's also, because we live in the present, because you live in the now, you don't think about the impact that current artists are making and what they will leave behind as part of their legacy. That's where we get it twisted, you know? There are people out here who will definitely make sure that these artists nowadays are getting their shine. You know, people are showing up to these shows. People are streaming the music. So R&B is definitely not dead. It maybe not be the R&B that you remember, but it's definitely not dead. So, you know, I would always say just give things a chance. You know, you may like it. And if you don't, then that's cool. You know, that's how you rocking. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so talked about the hip hop with Game's album. Talked about my opinion with this whole R&B being dead thing, which I vehemently disagree with. So to end the show, you know, I gotta get, you know, it's called Eminem Spanglish, so I gotta get a Hispanic topic in. I wasn't just gonna blabber on about music during this whole recording. Can't do that. So get this right quick again. So I saw a video yesterday on YouTube, and that consisted of, you know, it was interesting. It was a Vice video. You know, I think people are very have mixed reaction when it comes to Vice, but you know, I enjoyed it for the most part. It talked about people who are against immigration, you know, particularly from Latin America, which is, you know, common in the United States, and this white supremacist idea of the Great Replacement theory. You know, for those who may not be familiar with the term, like I said, it's a white supremacist idea, so it's rooted in racism. The Great Replacement theory essentially says that white people, who are the majority in the United States, feel like there's some grand scheme by some world elites to allow these vast number of different cultures, immigrants from Latin America, the Middle East, Asia, East Asia, from wherever, to come to the United States in order to make white people the minority, and in a sense, replace the greater society. You know, obviously when you hear it, it's crazy off the back. You know, white people have been the majority forever in the United States, and it shows no signs of slowing down. And then, you know, they use these crazy terms, like within the name itself, like replacement, like nobody's replacing you, like nobody's killing you off. You know, they use these fear tactics, you know, these fear mongering type of words to instill somebody that may be gullible enough to believe this type of propaganda, you know, this racist propaganda, that somehow they're being like killed off in a way, that they're being like shunned away to like an island or like thrown in a lake in the middle of Minnesota. I don't know, you know, what have you. So a crazy concept that a lot of people believe in. And when I was watching this documentary yesterday, it focused on particularly Hispanics in El Paso. You know, El Paso being a predominantly Hispanic city. So people within like the local city council, mayors, things like that are Hispanic. And because of the rise of like this alt-right of these extremists within the United States, a lot of people have gotten on board with believing in certain rhetoric and certain ways of thinking. You know, even people that you think would be for, maybe not for, but maybe lenient toward the understanding of why people moved to the United States in the first place, why they cross over here illegally, you know? So it struck me because a Hispanic being conservative is not anything crazy, you know? We know it exists, right? I think a lot of us would like to believe that they don't, but they're out here. They really are. I don't know how many. I don't associate with a lot of them because, you know, our ideals don't really add up. And if I do know any of them, we don't normally speak on topics like that. So definitely out here. And I think a lot of time we care not to admit that they're out here. That we paint this monolith that all Hispanics are fairly liberal, Democrats, whatever you want to say it, which is not the case. There's definitely people out here who are conservative and, you know, well people, of course. I would imagine, but you also have those that, while they may come off talking that they have like the best interest at heart when it comes to their community, what they believe in, what they stand for, I think a lot of times because of how certain narratives and certain rhetoric has influenced them, they are unknowingly participating in very dangerous ideology. You know, turning your back on your people in a sense, without realizing the harm that you're really doing. By calling people invaders, by calling a people group all murderers, you know, rapists and all that. I think, like I said, I think they believe that what they're doing is right and what they're thinking is logical. That if this white man next to me is being replaced, then what's stopping me from being replaced? That if the greater society could be replaced or wiped out, you know, by invading immigrants, what's stopping them from doing the same to me? So it creates this crazy, irrational way of thinking that infiltrates the minds of people who come from a lineage of, a lot of times, you know, the very same situation that these people are caught in when it comes to immigration, when it comes to seeking asylum in the United States. The believing that because they're here illegally, they have these bad intentions because they're not seeking the correct way of doing things legally, which, you know, it's not true. People do seek the legal way of doing things to get citizenship, to get residency in the United States. It just takes longer. So when things take longer, you're not going to be as patient. You know, when you're staring down the barrel of a gun. You know, when it comes to feeding your children, taking care of your wife, your significant other, you know, what have you. Maybe you don't have 5 to 6 years up to 10 years to wait until you receive some sort of green card. These are people, risking their lives to get over here. And once they're over here, they kind of lay low. You won't hear from them, but they're out here. But no, you have these people, these brown latinx people out here really claiming that their way of thinking is a force for good because they're thinking about their community. They're thinking about their own and what's near and dear to them, when in their heart of hearts, what they truly believe in is a society and a world that's ran by corrupt white people. This continual cycle of white domination, and them trying to mask it under the guise that they're just protecting their community. So it's one thing to maybe not like that somebody is doing something illegal, which then makes them a criminal. But it's another to have that same mentality, but also it be tied to some greater force that may not always be beneficial for the people that you supposedly don't like because they're criminals, Very hypocritical, like I said, very irrational. And go check it out for yourself. It's on YouTube. It's called something like Hispanic, conservatives, immigrants, something like that. You type in all these keywords, the buzzwords, it'll come up. Like I said, it was a Vice video, so definitely check it out when you have a chance. About like 38, 40 minutes long, something like that. So, got through the hip hop, R&B, random YouTube videos about, immigrants and, these racist ass Hispanic conservatives. And lastly, of course, I gotta end it off with was good looking out, glow. All right, so this is the part of the show where I give out my recommendations of movies, music, art, all that fun stuff of what I've been checking out recently. So for this week, I have gotten into the show, which can be found on Hulu. Excuse me. Called Under the Banner of Heaven. Now, this show stars Andrew Garfield as a Detective Jeb. He is trying to solve a double murder case involving, don't want to give away too much because even identifying like who the characters are could kind of spoil it in a way if details like that are very important to you. So I'm not going to say who the characters are in particular. It's a double murder. This takes place in Utah, and at the heart of it is this crazy, extreme Mormon cult, essentially. It's about the extreme side of Mormonism and a lot of the wrongdoing, the evil that kind of comes out of it. If you know Mormonism, if you've ever even looked into it, their practice and belief tends to get criticized a lot and tends to get made fun of just for the thing they just believe in. I think that the same can be said about a lot of other religions, but Mormon seems to take a lot of it over the years. But this show brings to light a practice that, to still today is kind of argue, even within Mormonism, if it was ever real in the first place. And that practice is called blood atonement. Now, blood atonement within Mormonism basically says that you have the right to kill another being, spill that being's blood because of some sort of like divine power, a divine revelation coming upon you that allows you to kill for the greater good of your God. And that it is justified in your God's eyes to spill blood through blood atonement. Insane, right? Crazy that you would use your God as a scapegoat, essentially, to say that, yeah, if I want to kill somebody, I can, because my God says that through spilling their blood, it's basically a sacrifice in their eyes. That, and this is the way they kind of phrase it in the show, that some sins are so heinous that the only way the sinner can be cleansed of their sin is to have their blood spilled. That's some sort of like sacrifice to God. Because within Mormonism, they believe that all can be saved. Because if I remember in Mormonism, there's not really a concept of hell. I think the worst part of Mormonism is like the lowest part of heaven, essentially. That as long as you accept Heavenly Father, which is what they refer to as God, you're pretty much a shoo-in, to make it to the celestial kingdom. But and if it takes them killing you and spilling your blood and doing all sorts of crazy things to make sure you get into the celestial kingdom, then so be it. Because this sort of murder and craziness that goes in the show is happening to their own people. It's not like these Mormons are just killing random folks. Like, no, they're killing other Mormons as well. So the show's great. If you like true crime, if you like detective work type shows, entertainment, definitely watch it. Watch it as soon as you get the chance. Under the Banner of Heaven, starring Andrew Garfield, who was in The Social Network. He was Spider-Man, of course. He was in that new movie where he played the person who created Rent, that Broadway show. I can't remember the name of the movie. I feel bad now because I can't remember it. But Andrew Garfield's a great actor. He's been in a lot of things, so definitely check it out if you enjoy that type of material. All right, so that brings me to the end of the show. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun talking about all these topics that I thoroughly enjoy. Not the same when you don't have a co-host, but like I said, Veronica will see you here next week. And we'll definitely turn up then when we set to record another show. So I've been Ricardo Mexicano, Mexicanatsu. This has been In Lemon Spanglish, ILS. Make sure to keep up with all our socials. And we are out. Appreciate y'all.